All right, so the purpose of this video is to focus on input masks, or what we're going to do is control the data that is put into certain fields within our database, providing the user with a mask or an input mask that controls what they can and cannot put into certain fields. So on the left-hand side, I've got our database opened up. On the right-hand side, some reference material from Microsoft on data masks and input masks. So step one is to enable the content within this database. So to get to that form, we're going to close the first interface and enable the content. That'll open up the database with the macros enabled. We're going to get started. And I'll show you first how we can modify input masks on fields, forms, and then I'll show you a better technique later on. So we've got this field with business phone numbers, and at this point, anything could be dropped into that field, and that would be not good. A better approach is to have an input masks that ensures that the user is putting in the data that you want, whether it's numbers, fields, letters, combinations of characters or spaces. All of these are different options that are available to you. So what we'll do first is I'll show you how to modify it in Design View. So we've got the home phone field with a data input mask. Click on the triple dot right here. That brings up a wizard, and assuming that your phone number is US centric, you can pick this one, right, the top one right there. You see the other options that are available to you, from social security numbers to dates, times, etc. Click next. We've got the mask that's set up for you. This is requiring optional numbers up front, and then requiring number, and then a dash, and then 4 additional digits. There's placeholder text that allows the user to know what it is that they need to plug in. And then we ask the question, how do we want to store the data? Do we want to store it with the symbols or without? Right now, the text field that we currently have is free text. So we could go either way. I'm going to choose with symbols. And then we hit finish. And so what does that look like? We'll hit the save button and view it. And we did this on the home phone number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. And if we tried to put in a letter or some other field, it would error out and basically tell you cannot enter that information in. And if we save it, leave the field, go to contacts, that value is being saved here with the parentheses and the dashes as we described it. Not having that input mask would allow somebody to provide additional digits beyond what should be allowed for a phone number. And so that's how you put an input mask on a form. Now, the better approach, close out a contact list and open up contacts, go into Design View, and look at the home phone number, is to store in the input mask that value on the table. So we'll do the same thing. Next, next, with the symbols, next, and finish. And now that input mask is sitting on home phone number. So I'll copy that, paste it in on business phone number, the home phone number, the mobile number, and the fax number. And now it's sitting on the table. So the better approach, going to contact list first, into Design View, Just bear with me as I do this. I've removed those fields from the form. I'm now going to add the fields that I modified: business phone number, home phone number, mobile, and fax. Back in by a simple drag and drop capability. Now, by doing that, that mask shows up on the form itself. And any place that I put this field will have the mask associated with it, and it will it'll force the formatting to be correct in accordance with what is on the tables. So we'll go back to the contact details form. And grabbing, again, those 4 fields. Just bring them in first. Now remove the old values. And so now if we were to look at the property sheet and look at the format for those, the input mask is inserted right there. So I'll stop the video for a couple of seconds. So the next capability that Access has is validation rules. So in this example, what we want to do is ensure that our emails are properly structured. And so we're going to leverage validation rules to check them prior to allowing the user to depart that field. So start off with leveraging contacts. And we've got a field in here for the email address. On the bottom of this object, you've got the input masks, validation rules, and validation text fields. So leveraging the open internet search, we're in design view. We've got our email field found, and our data type needs to be either text or a hyperlink. So we can either make it where the field is just straight up text, or we could change it to being a hyperlink so that you could click on the field and have it navigate to that address. So then next you'd look for the validation rule, and you would copy this rule into the validation rule cell. And that sets the format that it's not null, and it has an @ symbol and symbols before and symbols after it, and that it doesn't include some certain characteristics. And then in the validation text, something that we want to tell them. And so in this example here, we'll just take the text that's provided as an example and put it in as our validations text. Then save our work, and then we'll check it. So hit the save button. It's confirming that you are willing to have anything that was in that field get changed. So a good email address is going to come out like that. And then a bad email address should provide me with an error message. Now, granted, it's not erroring when I left the field, it's erroring when I try and leave this record, but at least it's checking to make sure that the email is properly formatted. There's other techniques for doing this to check it as you leave the field. This is a good first step. So we'll come back to the field and we'll make it properly formatted. those one more time. I need to figure out why. All right, so what I found through Stack Overflow, just wondering if there was another approach, is that somebody else was trying to use the same technique. And the person responded back and said, hey, there's something wrong with the code and ANSI key mode, blah, blah, blah. So what I did is I said, all right, well, let me take this code right here of a like. I copied this code down at the bottom, went in and replaced what was provided to the new validation rule. So I copied that value down here, went into design view, changed my value or put in my email address, and I am good to go. Get rid of the @ symbol, I get an error message. Add in the @ symbol, and it works. So that's how we get an input mask check on emails. And obviously, not everything provided on the internet is going to give you the first right answer every time. So a little bit of searching going on with that. So now that we've got the input mask put onto email addresses, we're going to take that field that we modified that's on email addresses, drag it back in so that input mask is available to us. And then we go to contact list, design view, and email address field, and bring that object in as well. Hit save. And now when we are populating new email addresses like John Smith at AOL.com, we get an error message because there's a space that shouldn't be allowed, but it's good to go. And that's it for this video on input masks.